So I want to talk a little bit today about mental models and how they affect what we believe is possible, what we believe is achievable. So I want to say ever since I was a little kid, I kind of always knew I wanted to do something in art or music or basically, anything creative. But by the time I got to high school, I had kind of convinced myself, society kind of did this too, and, where I grew up, I had kind of convinced myself that pursuing something like an art career was never going to get me any money. I was never gonna be financially successful. And I had this mental model I had this mental model ever since I graduated high school. So I had this mental model for like 9, 10 years. And it's really only been in the last year and a half, 2 years that I truly understand that you can kind of just make money doing anything. In fact, you can probably make money the easiest just being yourself and pursuing the things that you like, which is the whole point of this channel. Um, but what's important about that is, the fact that the fact that we are able to make money online, being ourselves, and doing basically whatever we want, has kind of been true since the dawn of like social media, right? Since the dawn of YouTube, blogs, the internet, right? That's actually kind of been true the entire time. But there's only been very so few people who've actually chased that, right? There's only very few people in this world, whatever, who have actually gone and tested, like reality tested that way of thinking. The rest of us kind of go our entire lives kind of just, assuming that, oh no, you got to be a special kind of talent. You got to be this, you got to be that. And I think at one point, maybe that was true, right? Especially before the internet. I think that was true, right? I remember somebody had said something like the total number of savants, and a savant is like a person who appears to be very, very good at something, who's extremely talented and extremely skilled. The total number of savants has perceived to have increased because there's more exposure now, right? Like it's much easier to get your name out to the public. It's much easier for people, regular people, who, strangers, to see how talented you are at whatever given thing, right? All you need is a phone or some kind of recording device, internet connection, and you just need to kind of post into the void whatever your thing is. And this kind of happens like all the time. People go viral for stuff that is, people to go viral is a skill, right? But there's like a skill within the skill, right? There's going viral for the thing that you're showing off. So let's say a viral video of a mural or a painting, a really, really cool one, that displays a ton of skill. But then there's also the skill of going viral, which some people are good at. It's like a meta skill. The point is, these mental models they can either hold us back or they can propel us forward. And I think for the majority of us, especially myself, actually, I had this negative mental model for like most of my adult life. I mean, I just turned 30, but for most of my adult life, I had this really negative mental model, and I could feel it in my bones, right? Like I could feel it within myself, where I remember I was like, this is so crazy, but I remember I was 24 or 25 years old, maybe. I think I was like 24 years old, and I wanted to pursue design, like the kind of like how I'm doing now. Like I wanted to create design stuff, and it's crazy to say out loud, but I felt like I was just too late to the game, right? I'm 24 years old. I had just graduated college with a math degree. I think, yeah, I just graduated college. I felt like my life was over already, right? Because I'm sitting here trying to find like a corporate job. I'm trying to find, something to be able to pay my bills or whatever, like something consistent, some kind of a quote unquote real job. And, I'm looking up design courses, tutorials, and stuff like that. And I'm literally saying to myself, I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm just too old for this shit. At 24 years old, I'm thinking to myself, I'm too old. But why, right? It's because I had a weak mental model. My mental model was, it was extremely, yeah, it was extremely weak. I had, a ton of self-doubt, but not just self-doubt. Like it wasn't even, the idea that my life was over at 24 simply because I just didn't know what I wanted to do after college it was like it was just dominated my whole thinking. Like it's like, could you imagine if I had started what I'm doing now 6 years ago. I'd be way ahead, right? Way, way, way ahead. And the only thing that stopped me was the mental model of I can't start design now. I'm just too old. Meanwhile, I did my first design at like 28, maybe. 40 years later, I finally said, fuck it, I'm just gonna download Photoshop and just create something. And I've been creating stuff ever since. I haven't created very many things since. That's gonna change. But the point being, my mental model it's stunted 6 years of my progress. And it doesn't just apply to, graphic design. It literally applies to just about any other skill, right? Illustration, which I'm doing now too, learning a language, whatever the case may be. Most people are walking around, like in today's society, no joke, with this mental model. Like they legitimately think they are too old at like 20 something years old to start over and do whatever they want. At 20 something. That's fucking crazy. But that's how most people are walking around. And I think the way out of that is to realize, for one, the first way out of that is to be brutally honest with your situation, which is exactly what I did. I was like, yeah, I eventually got to the point after getting job after job after job and realized like, I just don't want this shit anymore. And, I just went online and I was like, I have to find a way to make money online. I'm still kind of in that phase where I'm still, navigating that. But the path to me is much clearer. And it's only clearer because I just decided to just jump in. I just decided to say, yeah, fuck that shit. I don't care about a regular job. I don't care about a career. It's crazy. Like when people ask me, they always like, they're all like, what are you going to do? Retirement, 401k, career. And I say every single time, I'm like, I don't give a fuck about a career. I don't care about a career. That means nothing to me. And I've realized it's always meant nothing to me, but especially now, it means nothing to me. I've been let go from a bunch of corporate jobs, some of it performance related, some of it just straight up nepotism, and some of it was just, environment. I was like, I don't belong in this ridiculous culture. Regular day jobs, I simply just don't belong in them because they require like a lack of quality, a lack of care that I'm not willing to lower my standards to be in a regular job. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about today. The power of mental models and, the idea of, shifting from a negative to a positive mental model is going to change your life.